Hey guys, what's up? So the other day I was watching one of G9's videos, and in this particular video he killed his co-invader, and he does this from time to time, and there was nothing all that new about it. People reacted negatively, some people do, as is often the case when he kills one of his co-invaders, and I honestly normally just kind of ignore these types of comments, and I normally find them poorly informed, but in this case his co-invader's behavior was so egregious that I felt like I had to weigh in and I had to comment. I was blown away by how many people reacted negatively to my comment and to G9's behavior, and I realized there's some sentiments here that run pretty deep, and a lot of people I think aren't thinking clearly about what's going on and why somebody like G9 or me might choose to kill their co-invader. So I think it's important to start out with some simple observations, and one of those is invaders or any other person playing DS3 has really no obligation to anyone else other than basically following the rules of the game and not cheating. These games provide a tremendous amount of freedom and enables players to behave in essentially any way they choose. So if you want to go around killing all your co-invaders, have at. Obviously, don't be surprised if the reaction you get is rather negative and people hunt you down and kill you. People may even block you, but there's nothing fundamentally incorrect about playing that way. Now, obviously, if you want to kill the host, if that's your goal, it's not a very efficient way to play, but there's nothing inherently wrong with it. The next thing is that nobody who wants to win an invasion wants to stop pressuring the home team to kill their co-invaders. It allows the host to resummon or to summon a new player, to heal up, cast tears, whatever. It also costs people healing items to fight their co-invader, and it's unlikely that they're going to get enough Estus in return to justify the effort. So when somebody does attack you, assuming they're not playing for the home team, then they have to have a very good reason for actually coming after you, and that's something to think about. So the main reasons that people would come after a co-invader, the first one is if you're just standing around, and this has kind of changed a bit over time, but some invaders insist on treating invasions as duels. I know I've been guilty of it from time to time. A lot of invaders don't care for that, and I can certainly understand why. So if you're just standing around in an invasion and one of the co-invaders attacks you, that may well be the reason. They don't appreciate you just standing there. You're blocking a potential co-invader from coming in that could help them. But by far, the biggest reason for people attacking their co-invaders is because they're hitting their teammates. These games have a sort of implied fundamental reciprocity, where if you have a co-invader, you're both there to try to kill the host, and it does nobody any good if you're attacking your co-invader as much or more than you're going after the host and their phantoms. And I think it's important that these types of co-invaders experience the kind of negative feedback of their co-invaders attacking them. Hopefully it prompts some soul searching, or it prompts them to ask the question, why is this player attacking me? Why are they coming after me? And this is exactly why. And very often this type of behavior gets tolerated, where the other more experienced red will attempt to play around the player that's playing very poorly. And I think that's a mistake. I think sending a clear message to these types of players, the really egregious ones, and we'll talk more about that, I think it's important to send a message that that type of gameplay is not appreciated and they're going to get negative consequences in return. So nobody's suggesting that even over a single errant R1 that we should be killing our co-invaders. That's not the case. We all hit each other all the time. It's unavoidable. You're never going to solve the problem entirely. And it's sometimes okay to hit your co-invader. Sometimes it's purely by accident. That's totally fine, and that happens. Sometimes it's due to misbehavior with the lock-on mechanism. Again, that's completely understandable, and everybody tolerates that. And finally, sometimes it's a worthwhile trade-off. If you've got the host at next to 0 health, it's okay to kind of spam into them a little bit, knowing you're going to hit your co-invader if the chance of you hitting the host is high enough and ending the fight. And we all have to make trade-offs like that sometimes, and everybody should be okay with that and recognize those situations for what they are. All right, so to make my meaning here just a little bit clearer, I wanted to show some examples here. This came from one of my streams. This was actually, I was streaming some invasion analysis that other folks had submitted. I think this was CRISPR that had sent this one in. And these are like what I consider to be the really egregious cases. You can see here, the Aldrich already blindsided him once before. He's about to do it again with a Crystal Skill Spear. I mean, come on, man. Like, that type of behavior is really frustrating to try to deal with. And I'm not talking about like one-off errant R1s. In fact, you'll see the other Aldrich shows up here, and he has a lot of the same problems. There was actually one earlier. I cut it out of the video just because it got to be way too long. But, you know, hitting somebody on an occasion, like, that's fine. But when you cast a pyro like that, you have to remember that when you cast or you swing at both, like, let's say the host and your co-invader, you're more likely to hit your co-invader than you are to hit the host, because the host is looking for you to try to attack them. Your co-invader is not. Your co-invader already has their hands full. They're trying to focus in on the host. They're not looking at you. So it's way more likely that you're going to hit them. Sometimes that's okay. We'll talk about that in a bit more detail in a moment. But this is a really frustrating situation, and I've got it turned down, but I was offering commentary over this, and then the homing soul mass, like, come on, man, that you have no control over that. It's really frustrating. And here is actually some sections of the clip from G9's video that caused the stir. So you can see right away it's kind of weird, like, why is his co-invader branching there? Why wouldn't he have unbranched when he saw his co-invader coming? Because you would be concerned that you would be mistaken for one of the home team. And you can see the red doesn't do really anything. He just kind of stands around and kind of comes in and out of the room with his shield up. So essentially the full force of the gank is put on G. Like, they barely have to pay any attention to this other invader. He's like not even really taking aggro from them at all. You see here in a minute, I think right here, he actually comes out and like drops like a hello. Yeah, like, I mean, he's completely useless. And G9 was getting increasingly frustrated throughout this invasion, but he still did not react. He still did not try to kill this co-invader, even though he's obviously very new. He obviously doesn't know what he's doing. He's obviously not contributing to the invasion in any way, but it still wasn't enough to justify going and killing him. And let's be fair, if G9 killed every co-invader just because they were worse than he was, he would kill literally every co-invader in any of these fights. So it takes quite a bit to push him to that point. I think we're going to jump ahead here in just a moment, because G9 ends up killing 2 of the 4 players, and here he kills the 3rd, leaving only the host. Now, the one value that the co-invader did provide was being a distraction for the host, while G was able to kill the 3rd Phantom. But watch what happens here. G kind of steps back to let the red deal with it, but he doesn't, so he moves in. I'm gonna put this in slow motion here. There is absolutely no way you can attack this host as that other red and not hit your co-invader. And he actually swings 3 times. 3 times. The 3rd time was maybe a little less egregious because it looked like he kind of locked on to the host, but you can see what happens. The host gets away, host heals up. G9 would have probably killed the host if the red had just stayed out of it. So anyway, I understand why G went down and killed him. So what can you do? What should you be doing as a co-invader? Well, the first thing you should be doing is be cognizant. Be aware that you're hitting your teammates. And frankly, this is something that nobody should really have to tell anyone. This is something that was very apparent to me from my very first co-invasion. You realize you don't have friendly fire, you're injuring your teammates. That's obviously bad. Be aware that you're doing that and make efforts to stop. If you're a caster, you need to have a mix of spells and miracles that are appropriate for co-invasions, especially if you're invading meta at a place like Ring City or Pontiff, where you know the majority of your invasions are going to be co-invasions. That means you can't be casting spells like Homing Soul Mass that are going to auto-target your teammates. You might need to switch to a melee weapon if you're a spellcaster. You need to have some sort of backup way of being able to pressure without necessarily injuring your teammates. If you are going to try to attack somebody that another co-invader is already attacking, you need to ask yourself, could you be more effective instead attacking somebody else? And if there is anyone else on the home team, the answer is almost definitely yes. You are much, much better served by going after that other player, even if it's not the host, because it's going to distract that player, it's going to keep them from coming in to rescue the host, and you're going to be a lot less likely to injure your co-invader. You also want to look at matchups. For example, if there's a host and phantom and 3 invaders, so it's a 3v2, and there's watchdogs and Aldrich Faithful, I should say watchdogs or Aldrich Faithful, then go ahead and tag team appropriately, meaning Aldrich Faithful and watchdogs should look for matchups where they can double team a host or a phantom rather than joining in with a red, because you don't have friendly fire with other Aldrich Faithful or watchdogs. Sometimes though, there's no choice. Maybe it's only the host left and it's you and another red. In that case, just be aware of your weapon selection. Not all weapons are equally suited to all circumstances. As an invader, we need to be a jack of all trades, and we need to have a good familiarity with a wide variety of weapons. So if you have to attack somebody that another co is already attacking, think about using something with what I would consider a more nuanced hitbox. That could be a katana or a spear. Those are ideal weapons. Thrusting swords can be a good choice as well here. I'd also say learn to play unlocked. Now this is a more advanced technique, and I certainly don't expect everybody to know how to do this, and that's totally fine. You don't have to be good at this, but it's just another tool in your arsenal once you learn. Once you learn to play unlocked, you can manually direct your attacks such that the hitbox will be exposed to the host or phantom, but not to your co-invader. Again, a more advanced technique, but learning to play unlocked is something good to learn anyway, and this is something that you can use to take your game to the next level. Also, when your co-invader sees that you are doing that and you are unlocking to avoid hitting them, they're going to have an immense amount of respect for you as a player, and they're going to want to do everything they can to keep you alive. So if the other phantoms go to start chasing you down and you're having trouble finding room to heal, they're much more likely to come and try to rescue you because you're a real asset to their effort. Lastly, if you're being deliberately attacked, you need to ask yourself why. Why are you being deliberately attacked? And sometimes there's going to be reds that are summoned by the host, or they're going to be purples or traitors for whatever reason. So if they attack you as soon as you spawn, it's probably for one of those reasons. But if they were friendly to you and then turned aggressive, it's probably for a reason, and you should at least look and investigate and see why. Well guys, hope you enjoyed watching this. Thanks. Take care of yourselves.